I'm gonna get this meeting started at 6 o'clock on February 22nd, 2024. And I'm calling this meeting to order. So first of all, just need to look at the minutes from our last meeting on January 11th, and just to approve those. That's just stuff.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes for January 11th.
All right.
Yeah, he can't.
Oh, I got a second.
All right. Then let's vote on it. All in favor? Yep. All right. 1, 2.
Okay, that one's done.
All right, so moving on to the business, we have two topics, two things on the table tonight. We're going to start with the first one, the Outdoor Comfort Center amendment. Ernest M. Fitz. All right, so we have a site plan amendment application. So would you like to address the planning board and tell us what you got going on?
Sure.
Okay.
All right.
Let's hear it.
So we're down at 674 Main Street in Oxford. The sunroom screen's on the outside of the building. It's just about 6 acres there that we have now. Road frontage on 26, also road frontage on Roller Rink Road. And we're just looking to expand footprint a little bit. I literally just need it more for inventory than, and for the other plan is the other half of the village, just personal storage at the moment. I mean, I don't have any plans at the moment, and I guess you can never have too much space, right? So, but that's really literally the purpose of it. And it'd be, yeah, the steel structured building. So
what's your current business right now on the showroom for?
I'm sorry, what's that?
Well, what's your current business operating there?
So we build manufactured sunrooms and screen rooms.
Yeah.
I know it's not on here, but the picture you got, I'm assuming, assuming there's plenty of land beside the edge of the building on Roller Rink Road.
Yeah.
It obviously doesn't say it, I'm assuming it's.
Yeah, there's quite a bit there. The only thing that I just need to get into a little bit more detail, obviously, is obviously the setback from the road, which I'll probably be beyond that anyway. But I don't want to push it too far south of the property. That I always obviously try and look ahead a little bit. That if for some reason, whatever, 10 years down the road or something, I need to sell this building, it doesn't interfere with my current building. But so I do want to kind of keep it towards Roller Rink Road, but I have no desire to put it right to the actual footage of whatever the setback is.
Okay.
So.
And I was just saying, as long as it's beyond the setback, that's the, okay.
Absolutely.
That was.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a hard balance because I'm going to keep some inventory here and operate out of this, so I don't really want it too far away, but I don't want it. So
Yeah.
Further you have to go to get it.
That's right.
Yeah, so it's one building, but 2 great big rooms, about that one bathroom. So it could be, you could operate another business out of there, or you can rent it out, or.
Yeah, right.
Anything, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
And you have all the, I mean, that's all up to code, right? Decent, and whatever they're presenting here.
Yep, it is. I think the only thing that you're not seeing right now is setbacks from the road, but I did talk with the applicant. They do have plenty of setbacks from the road, and they're gonna actually plan to set it up so that there will never be any setbacks if they decide to separate it, so that won't be an issue. It looks like it's right on the road if you're looking at the diagrams, but it's not going to be an issue, and I'll take care of any building concerns or anything like that when the building permit's issued.
So we're just here to approve because it's, you said
25%.
it's over 25%. So explain that to me again, it's 25% of,
So it's 25% of the entire square foot of the existing structures. He's got quite a large footprint already. We did some math, I think, last year, and
is
that's
that
what,
going to be the acreage or the land?
it's
lot
the
size?
structural footprint itself.
Okay.
And so we did the calculation, and I think it was certainly into that. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, and because he's gonna be using it for commercial, it triggers that part of the amending, requiring it to be amending the site plan.
Mhm.
I make a motion to accept the site plan as written.
All right, discussion, all in favor?
One thing before we vote, can we get a clarification on the estimated date of construction start and then estimated date of completion, just for the record?
Well, I'd like to get started as soon as possible, and I would hope that within 12 months this will be done, but hopefully it doesn't take that long. Never done nowadays.
All right, so I'll just cross out the 2023 information and say ASAP for start and then within a year.
Yeah, yes, thank you.
All right, so all in favor?
Good catch, Kingston.
Yeah. All right, and here's this. Oh, he's still got his hand
No,
up.
I'm here for entertainment, it's okay.
Let's see. I don't know why my camera's not working. For the Teams meeting.
I don't know if you can sign it.
Here, okay, I'll go after.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Okay.
My camera's not working.
Pass it down.
She's
I'm
on.
back.
Okay.
I'll have to check if she can at least hear us, if that's all we have, and that's all we're gonna. It's not even letting me select it.
All right, so order of business, the first order of business is done. We're all good. Unless you have some more information.
No, I'll catch up with you guys, unless you wanna stick around for the next application. Yeah, we'll catch up, on that one tomorrow.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, so second order of business, the Robinson's Mill project, 280 King Street.
Yeah, there's, I don't know.
And, so now that, the subdivision or the cover letter and site plan, subdivision amendment plan, the appeal board decision. It went to the appeals board, and now it's come back to us, so. I'd like to, suggest we have public comment first. Do I need to have a vote on them?
I think you can just decide that, and just to move it, show a range from where it is on the agenda to push it, just in light of having audience members.
Yeah, so let's start off with public comment. First of all, I'll introduce, this is Steve.
Steve Bushy, Grove Palmer, representing the Caleb Foundation, who have acquired the Robinson Mill site and are looking to redevelop it into 77 units of senior housing, affordable housing complex. So the overall project, for the benefit of the public here, involves retaining some part of the building here in a U-shaped form. That's kind of warehouse today, old, certainly. There would be 30 units there, but the real gem of the project is the original historic buildings that go back to this building here, 1865, and then 1890 or so. And within those spaces, those are the multi-story buildings. You don't really see them all that well today because of the buildings that are out in front of them. But once this would all be demolished, those would all of a sudden pop back out. And we'd have 45 units of apartments in there. And then there's a boiler house building, which I apologize, I should have outlined in red here. That too is a historic structure because of its age. There would be 2 more units there under the current planning. So
So all, oh, sorry,
Sure.
So all the rest is going to be demolished?
Correct.
So the big square that's jutted out further down King Street, down below, bottom?
Or
Yeah.
Yep,
Okay.
that piece of building would all come down as well, so I'll show you the site plan.
Yeah, you want-
But I wanted to give you some
Yeah.
orientation as to the building and those building pieces that would be coming down. Here's the site plan per se, so maybe I'll just show this one a little easier here. So, King Street, existing parking lot, all pavement, existing building, the marina to the south side of it. So here's the U-shaped building. Gonna demo the bit of it here on the interior. Column lines more or less fall along this inside. It's an interior space today that needs to have a new foundation put underneath it, obviously to make it an exterior wall. But then there would be units built within here, be a double-loaded corridor, hallway down the middle with units off on each side. All of these units vary in size from 500 square feet to 750 square feet and so forth. And again, they're all affordable. The Caleb Foundation and the owner or their representative, Suzanne, is online here tonight, and she may be available to answer questions if need be. But they are an affordable housing developer out of Massachusetts. They have a pretty strong presence here in Maine, as well as other states here in New England. And that's their bread and butter, is affordable housing. This project is going to be seeking support financing-wise from a number of different sources, including starting with Maine State Housing. And we're going through this process at this time frame right now to be able to put in applications to Maine State Housing. It's a competitive process. There's all sorts of other developers out there. Everybody has to put in their application to seek that financing support with Maine State Housing. And we're trying to get our position in line here to get that. But because of the historic nature of the development and the two mill buildings, historic tax credits are also out there for an opportunity for financing. What we call brownfields financing, i.e. cleanup money. It's an old mill building. It's not bad, but it is an old building. There's lead and asbestos and assorted other things that need to get cleaned up, which will happen. Those monies can be leveraged. So the developer's also been talking with the community here in the form of a tax increment financing support as well. So all those things go into the ability to take what is a very expensive project. So we had appeared before the board back in January, and they saw a full application. Because of the zoning language here in this community, we had to seek an appeal to the Board of Appeals. And that was because of one particular provision in your code which says you have to have a minimum area of 4,000 square feet per unit. So we got 4.67 acres, you divide that through, technically under your code, only 50 units could be built on the property. The Board of Appeals heard our appeal last week and made our case for that. And we're proposing, we got approved for 80, and what we did in that, just to kind of give it a brief discussion. Our plan currently has 77, but we haven't completed final designs, and we don't know. Well, there could be a few adjustments because of mechanical space, otherwise. The building space that will be redeveloped is unchanged. We just don't know if it'll be 77. We said, well, why don't we just go up to 80, because we don't quite know how we're going to fit all the units in this space until we get to final design. The Board of Appeals was okay with that. That reduces the minimum lot area to 2,544 and change square feet per unit on this lot. So that's how they granted us that approval, and with that, we've now come back before you folks in hopes and in requesting a site plan approval and an amended subdivision plan approval. This piece of property is part of a bigger piece. And do I have here's the amended subdivision per se. A number of years ago, the planning board heard and approved what was a very small subdivision, basically single-family homes off of this Robinson Way, in 5 houses are out there. Part of the property here was just simply identified on that previous subdivision plan as future development. The previous landowner had at one point in time gotten approval to do, I think it was 6 units. He was gonna do some condos in the building, he was gonna park in the building, and so forth. That didn't happen, for any number of other reasons. We're only proposing apartment units, no parking in the building, as I've shown here on the, we're gonna have an outside parking lot within the yard area. Once the buildings come down, we can figure those sorts of things, provide parking. We'll have 90 parking spaces of what we're proposing, so there should be ample parking for the tenants here. But that is part of your approval, twofold site plan approval and then the amended, this will be the 5th amended subdivision. There were previously 4 plans. They were all kind of the same, but there were tweaks to every one of them in that process. I think the previous owner went through a couple, 2 or 3 years of, oh, well, had to tweak this, had to tweak that, but other than the houses, nothing ever really happened. So, hopefully that's enough of a background for everybody that's here, if you wanted to talk, and for the board.
Yeah, that was
I
good.
can offer more.
Yeah, any comment, public comment?
I would like to ask if the planning board plans on having a public hearing on this project. I am requesting that you do have a public hearing. My name is Sharon Jackson. I live at 333 King Street. I don't approve this project as planned the way it is. The primary reason is, I'm sure you all know exactly where that location is, living here. It's right on a corner. Now I hear 80 units, 77 was bad enough. That is right in the middle of the village. Anybody that lives on King Street knows the amount of traffic on King Street. It is the route that'll take you to Thompson Lake, Hogan Pond, and Whitney Pond. I live on the corner of Pismo Beach Road and King Street. Again, tremendous amount of traffic. A lot of kids have always lived on that road in the 40 years I've lived there, and they still live there. For 90 parking spaces to be available for a complex that has 80 units, in my opinion, is unacceptable. Number one, if a couple live in a unit and each of them have a car, that's 2 parking spaces. When they came to the selectmen's meeting, the Caleb group said that in their experience, not everyone has a vehicle, so those tenants who didn't have a vehicle, that would be, for somebody that had 2, they could have that. So then the questions were asked, well, do they have company coming? So I don't want King Street to be a parking space with cars parked on both sides of the streets because there's not enough parking. I'm not saying the parking lot's going to be full 24/7, but the parking lot, if it's full and King Street becomes a parking lot for cars on both sides of the street, that's not a safe place to be in that corner. Anybody that travels that every single day, that's not a very good corner to come around, and there is a lot of speeding there. It's not something that, you know, you're putting, if you have 80 units, you're putting 80 extra people in that small village area. Those 80 extra people are going to impact the number of people that go to the beach, the number of people that are walking out in the community. I just see there's too much of a congestion there. I also know that if somebody passes all of the guidelines, that you have to approve it. But I'm requesting that you consider having a public hearing so that the neighborhood can come and tell this group what our concerns are. I've lived there over 40 years. My husband's lived on that street, he's 78. He was born here. I just think that there is too much going on that street, and for now, for them to even think, and I know all about the appeals, you had to get a hardship ruling. I find it very hard to believe that they met the requirements. I read the decision, but I also know all about the hardship requirements too. If you create your own hardship, you don't qualify for a hardship. And this group knew that our zoning ordinance, they could only have 50 units, yet they still came forward. So I don't have any sympathy, but I'm a little bit upset to think that the appeals board did grant this appeal, and I think it could be challenged by law. But I am requesting that you have a public hearing so that people in the neighborhood can hear all about this, so that they know what to expect.
This is Suzanne, can you hear me?
Yes, hi Suzanne.
Suzanne.
Hi, so I'm Suzanne McKibben, I'm the representative for the Keller Foundation, I'm the real estate director. So just a couple of comments. We intend to stick to 77 units. The only reason we ask for wiggle room is in the event that the plans change a little bit and the one bedroom might turn into a studio, but we don't intend to go up to 80, so it's just for a cushion, just in case something happens. Second, on the parking lot question, we did add a few spots, and statistically speaking, looking at the properties that we have in our portfolio, when we look at all the one bedrooms in the senior developments that we have, only 6% of the one bedrooms have more than one occupant. So that means that for 77 units, you'd be looking at 83 people, and not everyone has a car. So those are the statistics that we have in hand. So if you were to go with,
I think your mic, Yep.
Yeah, I put myself on mute by mistake. So if you were to go with 50 units of housing, you might have 2 or 3 people in there, so that would turn into 150 people, versus we're proposing 51 bedrooms, where the occupancy is probably just going to be 1 person per unit. So that's just some data. And if parking proves to be an issue in the future, we'll consider that and probably remediate that. But for now, we actually increased it by 10 spots, I believe.
Okay.
I'm June Mosier. I also live on King Street. Pretty much echoing Sharon's concerns, but you triggered a new question. So if you don't get approved for 77 and you only get approved for 50, are you implying they will be larger than 1 bedrooms if you only can put in 50?
No, so it just proves to be not financially feasible. We need to have a 77 in order to proceed.
Okay. Yeah, so same concern with that area. I'm also requesting that the planning board hold a public hearing before making your decision on whether you will approve this amendment, and give the neighbors an opportunity, because a lot of people in the town don't know. The only reason we know is my husband's on the planning board, she's a selectman, so
Yep.
we kind of know more of what's going on in town, but the neighbors don't. And so that would be my request there. And then also, yeah, the numbers are concerning. And again, I would echo that when the Caleb Group decided to purchase the property, they knew that the zoning would be for 50 apartments, and they took that gamble that they would get the approval. They are also requesting a very large TIF, at least that was in the first meeting that was mentioned. Now, I don't know that they will be able to get this town to approve the TIF that they are asking for, which is a large tax benefit of, oh gosh, I can't remember, it was something like $35,000, or it was massive.
$75,000 over 30 years reduced off their tax. 75% of their taxes reduced over a 30-year
block. So again, and I'm totally not comfortable with, we're gonna do the parking and we'll remediate it later. Absolutely not. I don't think we can go into an agreement on, we'll change things later if it doesn't work out. So I just think I would love to see the project. I'm not against the project, I'm against the size of the project. Go ahead.
Just a couple of comments on the TIF. Nothing's been decided. We're still in discussions. The data you cited is not accurate anymore. So I would just pull that off the table, because we haven't reached an agreement. We don't even know if it's going to happen.
Yeah, and for the record, I'll remind the planning board, we're not here discussing the appeal. That's a finalized decision that the appeals board made, nor are we discussing the TIF. This is simply hearing the project as it is, as it stands currently.
All right, so. you've
When did
heard-
they purchase this property? I did not see it.
Should be in the packet,
What do you, no, I think
the bigger packet.
Okay.
Yeah, the deed is,
Trying to through it here,
yeah, there's a lot. Hold on, I'll direct you right to it. Should be
but,
attachment C, page 16.
November 9th, 2023.
thank you.
So actually one more comment regarding traffic. If traffic really proves to be a concern, we can hire a traffic consultant to perform a traffic study.
And I believe the
That's
planning
something
board,
we typically do on other projects.
and I believe the planning board can request that.
I would like to.
Okay.
Good question. Is the planning board allowed to make the determination that there can be no parking on King Street if the project is approved?
I don't know that.
Is there no, like,
I think they don't have plans to have off-street parking. It's not part of the parking count, if I'm correct, Steve, so it's all off-street parking currently.
yes.
Whether or not someone chooses to or chooses not to,
Right.
if the board wants to put that as a condition, I'm sure we could explore and see if they have the authority to do that. Right off the top of my head, I don't believe they can not say that,
Mhm.
but it's always an option.
Can I have a follow-up? Can the planning board require less number of units than they're proposing?
Theoretically, usually an applicant would want to, if they're proposing a certain number, because it's going to either shoot the project out of the air from the start, I would say they probably wouldn't want to go under that, and the applicant has proposed that 77 is that number. So if what you're saying is you would like to see the board meet back down to the 50, I think that would fly in the face of the appeals board decision that was granted to them. It's kind of counterintuitive in that sense.
Oh, yes, Steve.
If it might help, and Suzanne may want to weigh in a little bit, but with respect to the 77 and what's driving that number, there's cost, basically, when it all boils down to it. And the issue at hand is the cost to redevelop here and broken down into a number of different categories. All the soft costs, which are all the upfront costs, acquisition of land and so forth, and in fact, here's just a brief summary that this number here, $3.19 million, is just an upfront soft cost that is a number that is more or less a fixed cost starting already, regardless of how many units get done on the property. Then the demolition cost and construction piece of it all also has a certain cost. One aspect of the redevelopment has to be the historic buildings, because the historic buildings, without those, there's no historic tax credits. The U-shaped building doesn't get any historic tax credits, so it doesn't qualify for much. But what's the driver is breaking all of those costs down. If you have to tear down the majority of the building anyway, you put that into the unit-driven price that these and the redevelopment will take for these units. We've looked at, if there was just only 50 units, the unit price then would exceed the Maine State Housing cap number by, and Suzanne knows what the percentage is. It's a very high percentage. I want to say 30 or 40% higher than what Maine State Housing would even support. They would basically say, yep, no, it's not, can't do it. So basically you have to get, all right, we need more units to get that cap number down on a per unit basis to something that is supportable by Maine State Housing. And that's how you arrive at basically the 77 units. Might they have gone for more? Well, there obviously was a lot more building space there that could have otherwise supported even more units, but I think they arrived at the 77 because that got them to a comfort zone for what they were willing to take on and to build at this particular property. Suzanne can probably speak as well to the Caleb Foundation, and they're a nonprofit organization, so I know maybe the points of, well, it's all about the money and profit and so forth. Well, they're a nonprofit. They're just trying to build housing at the end of the day. And you got to do it in a reasonably economical, supportable fashion, and that's how they've arrived at that number. So that's kind of trying to lay it out in layman's terms and understanding it is a change, certainly. I think to Suzanne's point, they're just single bedroom senior housing. To the question of traffic, we've offered some degree of information in our application materials. Generally speaking, and I can speak to this, I've been in the business for 35 years. We have traffic people in our office. We do traffic studies. And if the board was seeking more input, we will certainly offer and provide that. But speaking as I have some degree of experience as a civil engineer and having done all these projects, senior housing projects, the traffic generation is hardly anything. It might be 10, 15 trips in the course of what we call that peak hour. The morning, remembering most of these people aren't working, so they're not pushing traffic. They don't go on the roads during when everybody else is going to work or coming home from work. So that's the general theme of these sorts of projects. I understand King Street and the concern, it's on the sharp corner there. We're looking to do as much as we can. We're removing the driveway that's on the corner here. We're going to keep the existing driveway that is shared with the marina, because that has to be maintained. It's an easement that serves access for the marina, but we would continue to use that. And then the parking lot over here, we're just putting a new driveway down King Street here for that access. So yes, there are issues with that we may want to talk about. We have felt comfortable with how this layout proceeds, to the point of on the parking piece as well. Because we're looking at predominantly single occupancy in these units, one car, one unit. I don't remember, honestly, off the top of my head, what the local code is.
1.5.
1.5 cars per unit, and we're 90 spaces shown graphically here for 77 units, so we're 1.1, 1.2. I've done a lot of projects, certainly in a little bit more urban setting, i.e. Portland, and so forth, Biddeford, Westbrook, where we're providing 0.7, 0.75, because it's older people who don't drive anymore. Now, it's Oxford, and I understand that may not be quite the dynamic here, and the ability for somebody to, they need to have access, and we don't have buses and that sort of thing. So that might be a higher count, but that's generally our experience. To the point of building more, or at least showing, here's how I would routinely handle that sort of question and concern. If we're showing 90, I could graphically put on another 20 more spaces here within this site plan to say, listen, these are future, they're on our plan, we may not build them until we need them, but they'll be on the plan that could be made part of an approval. Done that certainly in the past. We're reducing a lot of pavement and building coverage on the property. I think that's a plus, but certainly to the concerns, I hear that. A point that I wanted to make, because I thought it was relevant, and I think it's important, I think it's a big thing, the fact that in tearing down some of this building space and reintroducing what I understand was there 100 years ago or more, connectivity from the bridge and Main Street over to King Street, and so we're going to be making that a pedestrian route open to the public, not just to residents, so that is reintroducing what long ago was the ability to kind of walk them back and forth, not doing any vehicular access, the bridge, we're not looking at doing anything with that, but people can walk back and forth over the bridge, and we think that that's certainly a plus in how the project is laid out. It's trying to fit into the village. We've made the case that, well, it is a village and you do have some degree of services and is a good spot for people, but I understand the apprehension on, well, that's 80 potentially 80 people, for example, are now coming into that area. I would be curious, I suppose, back in the heyday, when this was an operational business, how many people worked there? Were there 50 or 100? It's a pretty good sized building. It must have been a pretty good operation. It probably had, I'm guessing, 50 people or more. I mean, there were a few people I recall on the board or others that I've talked to. who said-
Sam's not here, yeah.
It said that they had worked at the
Yeah.
mill, so, but, you know, I still understand that that was a long time ago, and that's not today, so I get that.
Yeah.
So that's just more background, hearing the concerns and comments and so forth. We're here to try to talk about those, see if there are better solutions. I'm not sure, I never commit to saying that we're gonna get you over the hump if you're in opposition to the project, but we're here to try to at least explain our point of view and what we're trying to accomplish here in a manner that we think is good for the community. I don't know if Suzanne wants to add any more to that, but that whole financial piece that drives the unit count is just that. It's just the numbers, and I can say here in our state, and I'm guessing that most of you have heard much of the press over the months, years, and, you know, from Augusta, the mantra, we need more housing, we need more housing, certainly true in southern Maine, here in Oxford, and points north and so forth, is also true. And it's becoming just harder and harder and harder, and one of the key drivers is the construction costs are just, they're not going down. They're just not going down, and that's a really difficult piece. And so I have found in a number of projects now that my clients are just faced with a never-ending issue here of affordability, and how do we make these particularly affordable housing, because they're paying good dollars just as somebody building a market rate unit. And I know we had expressed, for example, and this is to that point, well, if you just stayed with 50 units, well, if you went with 50 units, they'd probably have to be market rate units, not affordable housing anymore. And the numbers as they play out, what you would have to charge for a market rate unit, you have 50 units here, the developer, and this is my belief, why the facility, the building hasn't been acquired previously and somebody couldn't make a go of it. You'd have to charge probably $2,500 a month for a unit, which I don't think in Oxford people are able to spend $2,500 a month for 700 square feet.
Portland.
Portland, yes, they do it.
Yeah, downtown Portland, and even those people who are buying that, many of those aren't Mainers.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
Not everyone is gonna be able to qualify to get a housing and to rent there. They're going to have to meet a certain wage limit.
that's right, and Suzanne can talk about that more, but the number here on the terms of the rental, I think it's rough number, $850 a month, I think is the number in that
But you
range.
can't make over a
They have
ceiling.
to,
Yeah.
you have to income qualify at 60%, and that would translate to $853 a month in terms of rent.
Mhm.
Just one quick item on what Steve was doing. He did a great job. The remediation and abatement portion of the project is a bit more than $1.6 million. That is not even factored into the cost of the units. If that was factored into the cost of the unit, we'd be looking at a higher ask for units to meet the Maine housing total development cost that they accept. So I don't want to go into the weeds of financing, but essentially the abatement and demo portion of the project, we're looking to apply for financing under the ownership of the nonprofit, the Caleb Foundation, which are funds and grants and loans that for-profit developers do not have access to. And I think that's probably a big portion why a lot of market rate developers have shied away from this development, because they just can't access those funds. It would make the rents way too high, as Steve was just saying. And when we worked out the numbers, it looked like $2,500 a month.
You guys have any comments?
We should request an appointment. I think we should do a public hearing.
Well, I was gonna request one
Yeah.
anyway, but.
Yeah.
I agree.
I make a motion that we have a public hearing to discuss, just so the public and all the locals can come in and speak their piece. Yes.
I'll second that too.
Does that mean that a letter is put out to all the abutters?
That's correct. We have 6 pages worth of abutters, and I'll work tomorrow and possibly into Monday to try and get those out. The kicker there is that we have to give notice 7 days before the meeting, so theoretically, you're looking at sometime in March in order to make that happen. The other kicker is that this room will not be available after March 5th due to some construction. So we're gonna end up having to go possibly to the fire station into their bay. I've talked to the fire chief, it's probably the only path of least resistance that we have. The conference room is not gonna be available at that time on our normal Thursdays because of other meetings that are gonna be meeting there. So, we'll have to kind of put our heads together. If you wanna do another day other than Thursday, I know for most of you Thursdays was the day, we can do that as well, but sometime later in March, I think the 7th, is it the 7th? Well, no,
Yeah.
it could.
As long as I know ahead of time, I can usually make any day work.
Okay, and I'm,
As long
what
as
I'm,
the same time.
what I
Yeah.
was getting to is that it doesn't have to be on a scheduled planning board, you can set it whenever.
Yeah.
And because it's not gonna be in the same room where a selectman meeting would be meeting, you can do it on that day.
Can I ask a really dumb question?
Nothing's dumb here.
Can we do it on a weekend day so that
No.
maybe?
That is a dumb question.
I was just trying to give people a little bit more opportunity.
Come on,
No, I'm
Saturday's
sorry.
a good
I'm
time.
sorry, no, that, actually, in the means of public to, afford them the opportunity to do that, that's probably not a bad idea. Maybe what we probably ought to do, I know because town meeting is scheduled on a Saturday and people are kind of partial to that. I think that's a 10 a.m. thing. I'm hoping you don't decide to do that, but.
I think that sounds wonderful, in all honesty.
The other side of it too is if you do a 6 p.m. meeting, that's also favorable because most people,
Everybody's out of work by that time.
Right.
They're usually home.
the 9 to 5ers anyway, but
Yeah.
the night workers, it is what it is. But that's probably, I think first primary option would be a Thursday because we're used to doing Thursdays. It's for all the other board members as well. If you want to set a tentative Saturday date too, but we do have to pick one to at least pick, to put it on the notice so I can send them out to the abutters.
Might as well Saturday.
Well, first of all, let's hear a motion.
Okay, did the motion, but I can do it
Yeah,
again.
and I think he seconded it.
Yeah, and
You
he
seconded, all right,
it.
all in favor of that? Yes. Okay, now we just have to decide on a date and time.
Look at the calendar.
I think the 7th is the next.
Let's just do it as soon as possible.
Yeah, I mean, I'm good with March 7th.
Okay.
You good with March 7th? It's a
Yep.
Thursday, but March 7th, same time. I'm good with that. Does that give enough time for you to get all the stuff out?
I'll make it, yeah, we just need a week in advance.
March 7th is the same night as the selectmen's.
Yeah, I don't
No,
think
we don't wanna do that.
That's-
I don't think you should have it on the same night as
No.
the selectmen's meeting, because
That's a good point,
Okay.
because
Yes.
we don't wanna miss some of the,
No.
okay. How do you guys feel about a Wednesday?
I'm fine with Wednesday.
So, possibly a 6,
I'm good with that.
and at 6 p.m.?
Yep.
Yep.
Can you do that on a different day? I have a selectmen's meeting at Bethel that night, and I really want to be there.
What worked good for you, Sharon?
Yeah.
Well, I'm a town manager over there right now, so.
She's my boss up there.
Yeah.
Gosh, that's hilarious.
Yikes.
What about,
How about the Saturday,
14th?
the night? Anybody want to do a Saturday?
Saturday, now would it be 6 p.m.?
I don't think Saturday's a
10
good day.
a.m.
Yeah, I'm not a big Saturday.
I agree with one member in the audience, that Saturday.
Yeah.
was-
I don't
I'm not a
think
voting
overall
member.
I'm not a
Saturday's
big
great day.
Saturday
I know
fan
in theory
myself.
it sounds like it, but people really
Yeah.
don't come on Saturday.
People don't like Saturday meetings,
Yeah, it's, our
No.
town.
Here,
it's
here,
40
here, here.
All right, so
Yeah.
no Saturdays?
Steve, we never even heard from the applicant. How does any of this sound to you, by the way?
I know it's pushing
You'll probably
you
be
back.
the one to show up,
Obviously,
right?
Yeah, no, I'll definitely show up. It's just not a Sunday, but,
No.
Yeah.
and Suzanne probably ought to weigh in more than me,
Why don't we do it the Thursday?
I'll make it work however it
What
works.
about the 13th or 14th? I mean,
Well, yeah, I was
I
just
know
gonna
they're
say that,
anxious to
13th
get
or
it
14th,
done,
yes.
but.
Sorry, Susan, what were you saying?
Whatever works for the town. I mean, I have to come from Massachusetts,
Well, aren't you just gonna take your helicopter anyway?
Yeah, that's right. Have one.
Okay, so what are the dates, sorry, 13th?
13th to the 14th, the 14th is a board meeting anyway.
The 14th is also, because you have every single Thursday, so Thursday is off the table, so let's do.
Let's do 13th.
13th?
The
Wednesday.
14th is our normal day. the 14th.
Right, but because, so the select board is gonna be meeting every single Thursday in March.
Oh, every single Thursday.
Yep,
Oh.
and so we wanna afford them the opportunity, but you
Sharon's
said,
excited.
but you
For the
said
budget.
the 13th would work because you don't have the,
Yeah.
okay,
So let's plan on the 13th.
all
I got a
right,
day?
March 13th.
I think so.
All right.
So you guys,
I can't do that
You know, it is, you have, budget.
why not?
because I have document scheduled already. For-
We're gonna have to coax Kathleen into
Yeah,
doing
to do minutes, yeah.
She's going with me.
it. Are you serious? What kind of an appointment is this? That is not an appointment.
I already paid for it.
Take somebody else from the office.
Well, the secretary is gonna be knitting while we're in public hearing, so, March 13th.
13th. We can find somebody to help us out.
If,
Wendy.
Yeah, get Wendy.
Yeah. She's willing.
I'm gonna have to buy her flowers or
You
something.
should definitely buy her something.
Sweet talker.
I already owe Kathleen, so, alright,
Kathleen and I are going to dinner next night. We
okay,
had a plan for a month.
so you guys have voted that for that day. Did they
All
vote
right.
on the
We
date?
didn't vote for
We have
it.
not voted on the date.
We did.
We've gone and
But then you've
Nobody
set,
has
but then
voted.
you've set the date, I don't
Okay,
think,
we're setting the date March 13th.
That's 6.
At 6 p.m.
Yeah.
At the fire station.
The fire station.
and it's gonna
It'll
be
be
in
at
the
the
fire, oh wait, we could possibly have it in the conference room.
We're gonna have to decide if you're putting it in the paper.
Yeah, it's gonna be, yeah, okay, so it's gonna be conference room, cause they're not gonna be in there that day. I'll have to check
At the
with.
fire station?
I'll have to check
here.
with Sean, the fire chief, not this Sean, just to make sure it's open, but I have a feeling it's gonna, if not, we'll go right into the bays. We can, if we're gonna have a turnout, and we need more than 50 chairs.
But conference room at the fire station?
Yeah.
Okay. that's-
Either way, it's at the
that's-
station.
Yeah, at the station, that's where I was confused, like, you have to pick which.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, so someone make a motion
Are you done?
Make a motion, we have.
to accept or to set the date, or do we have to do that officially, or is it official?
Even if we don't have, you might as well just be safe.
All right, I make a motion that we have the public hearing March 13th at 6 p.m. at the fire station.
Yep,
Second one.
All right, that's all in
Who
favor?
seconded Al?
Al seconded it. And Sean, you raised your hand, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Passed.
Yes, it did.
Any more comments, Steve?
For the benefit of the public and the board, I will expect to, at this public hearing, give another full presentation with boards. We can work out some logistics if overhead projector and slides might be available, maybe more convenient, we can walk through things, but have heard your comments. We will expect to try to answer those as best we can and give you more information. If there are other things, maybe get funneled through Kingston that come up as comments to the board, or from public comment or otherwise, let me know so we can come prepared to the meeting to present as much as we can. We're certainly anxious and hopeful. And I would ask them the fundamental question of, at the public hearing, having gone through that, might there still be the opportunity for an action at that meeting?
Yes, take a vote on it?
Yeah, they can leave the public hearing figuratively and come into an actual meeting, and they theoretically could make a decision that night.
That's
Yeah.
much appreciated, but we understand that we need to be deliberate here and hear the people and hear our position and try to make context of it all, and hopefully
Are you gonna
we'll
submit
work our way through it.
The extra parking, are you gonna put that in the plan? You said it's a potential for extra parking?
I'm thinking that I'm gonna do that, yes, so I'm gonna resubmit an updated plan so that you would have that officially, like, oh, well, how many spaces are there on this plan?
Yep.
You know, maybe categorize them though as, well, this is what we'd like to build, starting with, and then we have the ability to build more that are on an approved plan.
And if I may too, would it possibly be a good idea for the board to require the traffic study at this stage so they can get that ball rolling now?
That's.
Do you want to
Yeah.
force that is what I'm asking?
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
We've already heard from the
Yeah.
public wants it, so I think it's a good idea. It can't hurt.
So are you talking about him doing it or somebody else?
You would be requiring it, and of course, if DOT drags their feet, so to say, and they're not able to do it in the time,
Yeah.
in the past, we've done it as a contingency of an approval, but getting the ball rolling would
Yeah.
probably be prudent.
So to that point, if I might, we're not gonna qualify for a DOT permit. The DOT's gonna go, we don't need to
Yeah.
look at
Right.
what you're providing. So this will be more of a local review. It will be done by our traffic engineer, so
Okay.
you have the ability to say, oh, well, there's a traffic engineer, and I get that, within our office, so he'll weigh in, do a nice little summary of, okay, well, we've looked at various things, we looked at your location, this is what you have for traffic on King Street, and this is what we project for the ins and outs and so forth, and he'll look at the driveway locations and give you at least a summary as a traffic engineer normally would for development being put on a piece of property and how's its access, and what's it going to do relative to traffic conditions in the nearby vicinity. So we'll put that together.
So we're good with that, right?
Well, I'd say I'll make a motion that
Yeah.
we get a traffic study done also.
Second.
Yeah, more specifically, I mean, from their group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think you have to reference where it comes from, just that it's
Just
done.
the traffic study.
Yeah.
All right, so,
All in
let's
favor?
vote on that, all in favor? All right, we'll cover all our bases, we can close out, our order of business. And we're done with public comment.
Unless there is any more public comment.
I will now close the meeting. Close the meeting.
Make a motion that we end the meeting.
Why'd you end it? All right, you make a motion.
Get out.
Second?
You second it?
Yeah.
All right, all in favor? All right, I think we all want to.
That's probably more accurate. All right, Susan, sorry my camera wasn't working tonight.
March 13th, that we agreed to at 6 p.m.
That's correct.
All right, thank you, everyone.
All right, we'll see you. Take care.
Good luck.